evening at 6:30 at KMA Shenandoah, KMA FM Clarinda Shenandoah. I'm Chuck Morris, and KMA News proud to present a special congressional debate tonight featuring three candidates who are running for the seat representing the newly drawn District 3 in the United States House of Representatives. I say three candidates, four have been invited. We expect Leonard Boswell here shortly. We understand he is en route, but we are going to begin without Mr. Boswell. With us tonight is one incumbent, Tom Latham, the Republican. Also joining us for the discussion this evening, David Rosenfeld, a Des Moines factory worker who represents the Socialist Workers Party, and West Des Moines small businessman and healthcare consultant Scott Badger, who appears on the ballot as having been nominated by petition. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for an opening statement before questioning will begin. Each candidate will then have up to 90 seconds to either answer the question directly or respond to comments made by the other candidates. We're asking each candidate to refrain from asking questions of the other candidates. The only questions to be asked tonight will be by our moderator. Our questions will be rotated in sequential order. Finally, each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. Those will be done in reverse sequential order. Our timekeeper is KMA News reporter Nick Johansson. Our moderator is KMA News reporter and 2010 Jack Shelley award-winning journalist Mike Peterson. Mike?
Thank you very much, Chuck. And as determined by lot, our first speaker will be David Rosenfeld. David, you have 2 minutes to make your opening statement.
Thank you very much, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to participate in this debate. I commend KMA for being the first organizer of a debate in this election so far that's invited every candidate that's on the ballot. Socialist Workers Party is the working class, labor, socialist campaign in this election. I really believe that we're the only voice that is representing and speaking for the working class in this campaign. I personally know what working people are going through in this economic crisis. I work a production job through a temporary agency, as millions and millions of workers are forced to do. I get low pay, no benefits, and I can be fired at the drop of a hat. I'm a disposable worker, but this is the condition that high unemployment and an economic crisis is pushing more and more working people into. Our campaign has been a door-to-door campaign. We haven't got millions of dollars to spend on negative commercials, but we have been talking to hundreds and hundreds of working people throughout Iowa, and workers have a sense that this economic crisis is deep, it's not turning around, and that we need some type of radical, revolutionary solution to what we face. I joined other candidates like James Harris, our candidate for president, Mara DeLuca for vice president, in explaining that bad government policy didn't cause this crisis. It's a crisis of the capitalist system. And it's our fights to defend ourselves where we're going to begin to learn and prepare ourselves for a much bigger fight, which is to throw off the image, the self-image that we've been taught to have about working people and discover that we do have power when we function collectively, that we have the power to build the kind of movement that can overthrow the dictatorship of capital and begin to build a society that's based on human solidarity, not greed and profits.
All right, thank you very much, David. Congressman Boswell was supposed to go second, but again, he is not here yet. So with that, we'll go to Scott Badger. Scott, you have 2 minutes to make your opening statement.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for inviting us. I appreciate it very much. Scott Badger, as you were told, I moved to Iowa 21 years ago. I'm originally from Minnesota, and occasionally my accent does come out. But anyways, the reason why I'm running is that I love my country, and we need to have representation in Washington that's going to work for the people and represent them fairly. We need to have the people's voice back in Washington, and we need to also deliver some common sense as we move forward. Those are some of the things that, in watching what's been going on in Washington for the past several decades, we don't seem to have. My background is over 40 years in business. I worked for my dad's family business for 13 years, and I have made some very, very tough decisions in my life. One of the toughest decisions I ever had to make is I had to fire my brother from a family business. There again, making tough decisions is what we need to have in Washington, somebody who can really take hold. I'm Six Sigma and Lean certified. I worked in healthcare for 15 years, decreasing and taking over $500 million out of healthcare budgets and reduced costs across the nation. So my background is very, very stellar in the ability to provide what this country is lacking, and that's leadership and the ability to identify how we can reduce our deficit and move on. Those are some of the things that I can bring to you as a candidate and will bring to you as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Scott. And now we go to Congressman Tom Latham. You have 2 minutes to make your opening statement, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Mike, Chuck, for the opportunity to be at KMA, which is a historic station and one that it's an honor to be here with these other gentlemen this evening. If you don't know Tom Latham, I'm born on a family farm, a small town of 168 people of Alexandria, Iowa. Grew up there with 4 older brothers. We worked very hard on the farm and tried to work together as a family and learned a lot of values, a lot of skills in that experience. But back in 1947, Dad bought a cleaner because of an oats infestation, smut infestation in oats, and that grew into a family seed business. If you ever heard of Latham Seeds, that's my family, 2 brothers and myself, which I'm no longer have an interest in, but my niece and nephew now run the business, so it continues in the family. I will tell you that the reason I'm doing this again is because I have 5 grandchildren. I just had a new grandson born in January, and when I looked at that baby and first held it, I could not help but think that it's $50,000 in debt as its share of the national debt, and that simply is wrong. It is immoral. We've got to have people that go to Washington representing us in Washington. When I first ran, my slogan was bringing Iowa values to Congress, and that's what I will continue to do, always serving the people of Iowa in Congress. We have a lot of challenges that we have to face today, and we've got to finally somehow put people before politics and progress before partisanship to be able to get things actually accomplished, and that's what I've had a history of doing. I do town hall meetings. I listen all the time, so it's an honor to be with you, and I look forward to your questions.
All right, thank you very much, Congressman. Congressman Leonard Boswell has arrived, and Congressman, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement now.
Well, thank you, Mike, and again, it's good to be here at KMA. I appreciate the opportunity, and I don't think I'll go into a lot of detail about the background because I've been here a lot of times before. I served here as a state senator, and I went to Congress from out this area as well. I am very concerned about where we're at as a country and this world we live in, and we have some things we really need to get worked out. And I have had a history of being one who's willing to compromise. I feel like that I'm a moderate. I try to be at least, and think that way and try to act that way. I'm a veteran. I spent a lot of time in the military, as some of you may or may not recall, and so on, and I know that veterans are somebody that we need to continue to look out for, and I will continue to do that. We passed some major legislation at one time that deals with what's going on in the society today when it comes to suicide and so on, and we've got to do better. We got this national deficit. We have a little amnesia how we got there, but we're there. And the question is, how do we deal with it? We must deal with it. And so I'll never forget when Secretary Paulson came to us and told us that we're going to have a depression. It would make the Great Depression look like it was a picnic or something. It was an unbelievable statement he made. And, we have tried to work with that, and we can, if we're willing to compromise and do things. We need a farm bill. Certainly, people understand in this listening audience, it's just inexcusable we don't have a farm bill. We plan next year. And, of course, the wind energy credit is something that should be done. We ought to be back there doing that right now instead of being here doing this. But we aren't. It's something we must do, and we've had failed leadership, and we need to get it done.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much. And now let's get into our questions for this evening, gentlemen. Our first question concerns a very hot topic in this election, the Affordable Care Act that was passed last year and signed by the President. The question is, do you favor repealing the Affordable Care Act? If so, what would you replace it with? If not, why? And we'll start this round of questioning with Congressman Leonard Boswell. Leonard?
Well, I would not repeal it. I would be willing to tweak it, and I would guess like other major legislations have been passed over the life of our country, why we expect to do that. When we think about the many things that's good that's going into effect and more that will go into effect, think about people with pre-existing conditions. We could spend a lot of time talking about that. I would guess that Congressman Latham gets calls as well as I do about this situation. And we think about the many other features, closing of the donut hole. You can't cancel your policy, can't max it out. The fact that seniors can go get without costing them a checkup and be able to get the treatment they need in preventive care is a big feature. And we could go on. There are a lot of things that I think that people out there are going to say to us if we actually get down to seriously trying to do away with it would be a terrible. They would just not stand for it. So I think it's here to stay. We probably ought to tweak on it as we learn things we can do better. But we expected that when we passed it. It is major legislation.
All right, thank you, Congressman. And now we go to Scott Batcher. Scott?
I would repeal it. I've worked in healthcare for 15 years, and there were much better ways of handling the situation within healthcare. One of the ironic things is that this bill imposes an additional tax on healthcare for their purchase of equipment. And the whole conversation has been, how can we get healthcare down and make it more affordable? Well, if we're going to tax healthcare more, how does that decrease their costs? How do we get healthcare more affordable if we're going to increase their costs? That's just one part of it. There's over 16 additional taxes that are going to be levied on this bill across all the public. So the public isn't just going to be paying for healthcare. They're going to get taxed in 16 other areas in order to pay for this healthcare bill. And to me, I think there's a much smarter way of doing it. We could have passed legislation that made all healthcare take pre-existing conditions. If you take a look at group plans, if you join a company like mine, Wells Fargo, guess what? You automatically come in, you're covered 100%. But if you take out an individual policy, they have pre-existing condition clauses. And government could have taken that away and made it much simpler. In 2010, when I did this, we found that only 10% of the population was without health insurance, and we passed a bill for 10% of the population, which I think is ridiculous.
All right, thank you very much, Scott. And now we go to Congressman Tom Latham. Tom?
Thank you, Mike. That's an extremely important question. We have to repeal this bill that is simply not going to work for people in Shenandoah or anywhere in this congressional district. The fact of the matter is it spends an additional well over $2 trillion. It raises taxes of about $800 billion. And one thing that is extraordinarily detrimental to healthcare, access to healthcare, is the fact that it takes $716 billion out of Medicare that people have paid into all of their lives to fund a separate entitlement. Now, you may not think, they'll say, well, it has nothing to do, it's just cuts to providers. Well, those providers are your hospitals, are your nursing homes, your home health care providers, it's your physical therapists. The Medicare trustees just came out with a report and said that this decade, 16% of the hospitals will no longer take Medicare patients, and next decade, 25% of the hospitals won't take Medicare patients. So you better draw the lucky card that says your hospital locally is going to continue to service you, because with the draconian cuts that are coming to providers will dramatically affect access for seniors to health care.
All right, thank you, Congressman. And lastly, David Rosenfeld. David?
But one thing that the Democrats and the Republicans agree on is that what needs to be defended above all are the profits of the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the hospitals, as opposed to starting with what the human needs are of working people, those that need health care. You know, we don't need insurance, we need health care. And as long as health care is a commodity to be bought and sold for money, those that don't have the money are going to get the short end of the stick. Millions and millions of people don't have access to quality health care in this country. Neither Obamacare or Romney Care is going to address this. So that what we need to do is actually to begin to approach health care as a human right, a right that we are entitled to just by the fact